Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Disturb me anytime. Okay. Right. So phishing is an attempt to steal personal information of other people. How does it happen? Usually through an email. Okay, through an email which tries to motivate you to click on a link which directs you to a fake site which looks like the original site or the legit site, and then you fall into the trap and you submit your details. But now because of spam filters in emails, what happens is they try other methods like what, like instant messaging like WhatsApp. Then they try SMS. And do you know what phishing through SMS is called? Phishing through SMS is called. It was there in the ICT book. What do you call it? Smishing. Okay, it's called smishing. Okay. SMS phishing, smishing. Then they also try where did it say? Yeah, they even try calling. It can also happen via calling. Okay. Now, for example, they might try to pretend that they are from your bank. And one of the main risks that I have encountered with the bank, with my bank, and or even other banks, right? Or even other customer support people, is that they ask us like three questions to verify our identity. Like, sir, can you tell me your name? For verification purposes, can you tell your date of birth? Can you tell us your what else? Your address. Now, just imagine if someone was listening to us, listening to our or the details that I was giving to my bank, they could also call my bank and easily get all the information, no? Right? They just need to hear me saying my birthday, date of birth, address, and full name. That has a great security threat. So make sure that if you are calling your bank and if they're trying to verify you by asking some questions, just don't come out of your house. Just go to a secret place and tell them, disclose. Otherwise, you will be in trouble, right? So if someone is hearing what you say, that will be shoulder surfing. But if an unauthorized person tries to pretend that that he's from your bank, that is part of phishing. Okay. Now the other thing is when you get a call like that, how on earth you verify that it's from the bank? Okay. Then of course, now mostly what happens is like you call this customer support, right? It's very unlikely that customer support calls you. If in case if they call you, you will have to verify them, right? So you will have to ask like, okay, are you calling from the head office? How do I verify that you are from my bank? You can ask few questions like that. That's perfectly okay, right? So that's phishing. Then comes shoulder surfing, and shoulder surfing is basically, this is one of the easiest method of stealing someone else's personal information, gaining access to confidential information by directly observing a user. So this involves observing a user, what mistakes he does, right? What like let's say if you keep on forgetting things, right? If you have like things like little bit of dementia, right? They will notice and they will make use of that to access your accounts or get your details, right? Possibly literally looking over their shoulder. You are typing. The most common example is when you're typing a password, they tend to look over your shoulder, right? As they complete a task. Often, shoulder surfing is used to get a person's username and password or PIN. When you are entering the PIN at the ATM, the one behind you is looking at what you are typing, the number. Okay, I mean, even though they don't have any intention of stealing your data, they keep on staring at the number pad, right? What if the guy behind is a thief, right? He will quickly remember the PIN, and when you come out, he will snatch your ATM card and kick you out, right? Or maybe he will never take money from that place because you're also there, right? He will run away with your card and he remembers your PIN. Often, shoulder surfing happens in a busy place where a target is concentrating on completing the task quickly. A classic example is a cash. Here we go. Where a shoulder surfer stands near the cash machine and sees the user enter his PIN on a keypad. Once the PIN has been seen, the card is stolen. This is why they keep the other person at a certain distance. And also, have you seen like they put a kind of a cover behind you, like a glass cover behind you, because there can be someone from a long distance looking at your keypad, maybe through a telescope, right? So they put a semi-transparent board behind you, especially in open ATMs in open areas. right? If you want to share anything, any experience, just feel free to talk and disturb me, right? And ask any questions. The card and the pin can then be used to withdraw cash. Okay, so that's shoulder surfing, right? Okay, let me share this. Right. So what is next? Farming. Now you have learned about farming. Farming can happen in different ways, right? It is also an attempt to steal personal information of others, but mainly this happens by changing the DNS. And what is the purpose of DNS? Can anyone tell me the purpose of DNS? What's the purpose of DNS? Yeah, domain name server. What's the purpose? Come on, tell me. When you submit the URL, the DNS will resolve the URL, right, by providing you with the IP address, the corresponding IP address, the physical address. Okay, so it turns URLs into IP addresses, and then it sends the IP address back to us, right? Back to us in the sense the web browser, and then the web browser will use the IP address to locate the server. Okay, so if an intruder goes and change the DNS, right, then you will be redirected. You will be given a wrong IP address, or an IP address to a fake site, or maybe a fake or a server that is intended to steal your personal information, and then you will be redirected, right? So this is how it happens in farming. They go and change the DNS. Understand? To make it easier for us to use the internet, domain names are used to represent the IP address. These are translated back into IP addresses by the domain name service, DNS, right? When we enter the name into the browser, if you have visited the site before, then this IP address will be stored in your computer in the DNS cache. You know what cache is, right? Cache stores the frequently accessed data. You write these, okay, in your book. Stores frequently accessed data. Write in your book and highlight. The browser will connect without using the DNS. So the next time when you visit the same site, it will take the IP address from the cache, DNS cache, and then it will visit the server. We might receive malware in an email that can change the IP address of the domain name to a bogus one, a fake one, right? So two things can happen, right? It can either change the IP address in DNS server, right, malware, or else it can change your DNS cache if it is a site that you have visited often. Understand? Is that clear? Is that clear, Nisha? Shahada?
Yes, sir.
Amaya?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. You can hear me clearly, no? Right. Malware can also infect the DNS servers, right? Because there are thousands of DNS servers out there, right? Their job is to resolve the URL into IP. So these servers can be attacked, so that everybody is directed to a bogus, right? To prevent farming, what should you do? Check that the HTTP address of the site is one you intended to visit. Just check the URL, right? Even when you're redirected, check whether that URL is a valid URL or a legit URL. Sometimes this can happen when you are doing a payment also, right? When you go to a payment gateway and when you submit your entry, suddenly it will be redirected to a fake site. Now you might not really notice it. You might think, okay, that redirection is part of the whole process, right? And it'll be too late when you find out that you are a victim. Check that there is a secure connection, HTTPS. At least check whether there's HTTPS before you submit your details, before you submit your sensitive information, especially to a payment site, transactional website. Check that the site security certificate. You can go to that padlock and click on the padlock icon, and it will show whether it is having a valid security or not, security certificate or not. These security certificates are given by verification sites, companies, right, like GoDaddy. They verify that the site is using the proper protocols, proper security measures to protect the customer's data. So they have verified by giving a certificate, right? Install the latest security updates. Outdated software has vulnerabilities. Sometime back, when two kids found our admin password in our lab, they found it through an outdated BIOS in an old motherboard, right? So that's a perfect example where outdated software leaves a lot of loopholes, right? So install latest security updates because they have made it to protect from new threats, and install antivirus software, and you know what to do with antivirus. Update the antivirus definition so that new viruses will be detected and proper measures will be taken. Okay, understand? There's another way farming can occur. That is the spyware. Okay, spyware. Now, what are spyware? These are the malware that gets downloaded to your computer, and they stay secretly without your notice. And then they can record all your details, such as credentials, and send them to unauthorized users. right? Write this. Secretly stays in your computer and sends. Write this unauthorized users. Right. So this is one way. So this is one way. Just a minute, I lost power and it came back. So this is one way. This is another way, and this is another way. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, great. Right. Next is technical weakness. Right. When you have a hardware and software, it's very important that you update and upgrade them. Right. You should maintain these hardware and software both. Right. Because in that previous example, it was part of hardware and part of software also. Because that motherboard was an old motherboard. So they quickly noticed the system when it was old. So they checked whether the motherboard was old, and they found out, and then they checked the BIOS to see the BIOS version was also old. So it had to do with both hardware and software. So it's very important that you upgrade your hardware and software both. Right? Just a minute, I'm getting a call. Okay, sorry. Right. So technical weakness is cyber attack rely on technical weaknesses. Now this is something that many attackers look into. Right? They check what are the versions, whether this guy has updated to the new version, right? So they can easily check using certain software, certain codes. They can check whether they're outdated or not. Some common examples are described below. Unpatched software, right? Now, what do these patches do? Patch, as the name says, patch. What does it do? Patch software patches. Yeah.
They fix the issues, like
they fix the issues. Yeah, that's right. So just like patch, right? Now when you have a tire puncture, we put a patch now. So we fix that hole, right? So this is basically your securing these loopholes. Patch software. Software is very complicated, and usually security issues are only found as it is used in the real world. No software is 100% error free. It's dead true, right? It's a universal fact. So more errors will be found when it is in use, because in a testing environment, we know what to test, right? We don't chances of finding out unexpected errors is less, because we have defined what to test. We know the scope and we test it within the scope. But when it goes to the outside world, those people do all sort of things, right? The make of the software will normally provide updates referred to as patches. So what he does is he releases the software first, and then especially these multinational companies, they don't release it and keep quiet. They continue to test, right? Because once it is released, they're going to get complaints from the user, right? So they want to listen to the end user and report attend to those errors, vulnerabilities, so that they can release another update with patches to the existing issues. So they continue, they don't stop there. Fix security issues as they are found. Sometimes you must have heard or seen that they give the software as a demo software, right? Initially they release it to a certain amount of people, users, because they want them to be testers for them, end user testers. Often these security issues are discussed on the internet. That's why they set up forums, so people, they join forums and they talk about the software. So that's really good, and that's why they can collect most of the information rather than waiting the user to submit a query to you. You go to those forums and check what they're talking about. Some people will use this knowledge to attack unpatched software. Now that has a threat also. What if an unauthorized person or a hacker is also in the forum? He's going to get some vital information because you are reporting, and as the end user, you are reporting in a public place, and there can be hackers in that same forum, okay, to gain unauthorized access to information. The patches to fix the security issues often have to be manually installed by the technician. Sometimes they release it with the next update. So they will continue to inform you, okay, you run the update, right? Sometimes these patches get forgotten about, or the organization doesn't have any technicians to install the patch, so the software remains vulnerable. Now this is one of the reasons why most of the government websites are hacked. The gov.lk, they are not updated. The government policies, they take a long time and they don't care, right? They don't know what cybersecurity even, right? So they just leave it as it is. So most of the people in the industry have informed them, look, your government websites are vulnerable, do something, and they had been willing to help them, but they don't care, right? And very recently there was an attack, right? Can anyone remember what that attack was on a premier government institution? There was an attack by a 13-year-old, sorry, not 13 years, by an year 13 student in a school in a renowned school in Gaul. Anyone remembers? Anyone remembers that attack? Yo, yeah, international students. What is this? Anyone remembers? Actually, I'm asking a local news from some international students. No? Maybe that's why you don't know. What was that incident? Not that president's website. Right? That was a long time back. That was also from a student in Kandy, right? That was president.gov.lk. But this time, another important site. Presidents.gov is not so important, but this one is one of the most important sites. Anyone who knows? Harun, Jasit, Nishal, Amaya, Netma, Shahada. Shahada, remember? Nishal, can you guys hear me? Can you all?
Sir, I couldn't hear what you asked because my connection lagged out.
Okay. Others, can you just confirm whether you can hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So why don't you know about this incident, which happened like I think couple of months back, where a year 13 student from a renowned school in Gaul hacked into one of the premier websites and the database also. Can't remember. That was the doenets.lk website, which releases the government exam results. Okay, this guy hacked that website and he had copied the whole database with all the results of students, and he had published it in his own website. Right, crazy fellow, and he's from Richmond, Gaul. So he copied the whole results database from DoEnets, where the government exam results are published, and he put it into his site. And I think he was a good student, actually, very nice student. What he had tried was to make result search more efficient and easier, right? He didn't try to change the results, right? He would have changed the results of everyone, right? But obviously the Department of Education must be having printed the results as well. But this guy had seen the website so inefficient, and he wanted to make it more efficient and the search more user friendly by connecting it to his website, right? Crazy, right? So that's the thing, right? So if these servers are not up to date, if they are not patched, right, if the security vulnerabilities are not attended to, then surely your websites are going to be hacked. And the interesting thing is, most of these government websites, they don't even know that they are hacked. They are being hacked. They don't know until something happens. They don't know that they are being hacked even, right? Right. Understand? Any question? Hey, when is the parents meeting?
Sir, I think it's on Thursday.
On Thursday. Okay. If anyone is there who couldn't do the unit test, meet me tomorrow. I can give you another chance. All right. So unpatched software, right? Then USBs offer a great threat nowadays because they can easily transfer malware from one computer to another, right? But any USB device can potentially be a security threat because it might contain malware that could be transferred to your system, right? So in most of the cases, what happens is they hire an internal person, an employee who is usually angry with the boss, who doesn't like to work there but still works there, and they give a pen drive with a malware. Hey, go and plug this to this server or the network. That's all they had to do. And also we get people like customer support people or technical people coming into another organization to look at the hardware, maintain the hardware, and they can easily plug a pen drive and leave. Then eavesdropping is listening to someone else's communication. Eavesdropping means intercepting the data being sent from one computer to another. So the best method to protect from eavesdropping is to encrypt the data when sending from the client to the server, in a similar way that a person can eavesdrop on a conversation without the speakers knowing about it. Eavesdropping on a network is simply reading data without actually copying or stealing. The owner of the data might not know that the data has been read. Security weaknesses such as unpatched software or USB device might allow malware to be installed on a network that allows eavesdropping attack to be carried out. Right? When they install malware, right? There are certain malware that can open back doors, right? And that can also allow eavesdropping, right? So something like a software that will record the conversation and send it to you, right? Like, in these phones, there are voice recorders, secret voice recorders, voice call recorders. And you're not aware that they can record your conversation and store the file and ultimately send that file to someone else. So that's why you should not give your phone to anyone, because they can easily, right, pretend that they're taking a call and then they can install a secret, something like a secret voice or call recorder, and record all your conversations and get the file to them emailed. Okay, and also that there are keyloggers, right? Keyloggers often in most of the computers, especially in cafes, right? Never go and access your accounts in cafes. Keyloggers are full of keyloggers, and paid versions of keyloggers, they can record your keystroke, what you type, what you select, and everything, and send them to the intruder by email. Right. Right. Okay. So those are some of the threats that we have, that we have to be aware of. Right. Now the thing is, most of these problems can be solved if you carefully design the software. Right. So you have to think about the security not after sending the product to the user. You have to start it when you plan the software, when you design the software, when you develop the software, right? So early in the system development lifecycle, you have to start thinking about the security of the software. That's very important, right? So design and implementation, security must be considered at the system and software application design stage, right? That can involve selecting the proper software, selecting proper measures, technologies, right? Latest technologies, security features, right? All these things. If a piece of software is to be safe as possible against cyber attack, it should be a key concern when system is being set up, right? What kind of authentication is needed? You have to decide what kind of authentication, what kind of username password system that we are going to use. Are we going to use a two-step verification? Are we going to allow it to the users? Are we going to have different user accounts? Are we going to have admin account and restricted account? Like that, you need to look at all the possibilities. Do different users need different levels of access? Right now, for example, if you take our school online, the managers have a different access, like doctor. Principals have a different access. We have a different access account, and even parents have a different account level of access. But the data shown to these different users are also different, right? Teachers should be able to see the marks of all the students, but parents want to see the marks of their child only, right? And the management wants to see the fees details. Maybe they don't want the marks of individual students. Maybe they want to find out how many have uh, got selected for scholarships. Different accounts, different levels of access, different views of data. Should warnings be issued before allowing users to carry out potentially risky operations, right? Should we inform the user, okay, look, you are going to transfer this file, right? This is a secure file, you are trying to transfer this. Hold on, you are going to delete this important, do you want me to delete, right? Even if he selects delete, to be on the safe side, what the software can do is it can put it into a recycle bin, right? So that user won't lose that file, right? You must have seen, like, most of the system, they keep these deleted files for a certain number of days, and after that they clear them. So that's also a good option. The stored data need encryption. What threats will the software face? So you have to always look at from the point of view of the intruder, right? Will the software be run on computers that are connected to the internet? How do they guard against phishing, malware, and other hacking attacks? Have we thought about these different types of attacks? Right? Have we tested our software against these attacks? Now this is where the company can hire some ethical hackers. That's where you can think of your future job as an ethical hacker, right? So they will advertise, okay, we are releasing this software, we are looking for some ethical hackers, right? So would you like to sign a contract with us and report the vulnerabilities of our new software? Okay, once the designers have considered security, they need to look at the implementation, that is writing code. Right now, this is where you have to use the standards when writing the code, right? You may have used some functions that are outdated, that are deprecated, which are not longer any longer used. So that can have threats. Right? That's why when you are a programmer, they usually send you for seminars, right, to gain more knowledge, more experience, right, so that you get to know what kind of new technologies are being used. One major issue at this point is guarding against bad programming practice. See, that's why this book was teaching you the best practices right from the beginning, right? Usually the software project will have many different programmers working on the code. Some programmers write poor quality code, don't consider how safe or secure their code is. Now, for example, the zero division error, right? Let's say you know about that, because you have done it here, zero division error, and you know to avoid that error, you need to check the user input to see whether he's entering zero or not. But what if in your team there's another programmer who comes from a different background and who doesn't know what zero division error is even? Now what will happen if he writes the code? This error will be there, and if that is not tested properly, that will go to the end user. Okay, some times time pressure might make even a good programmer take shortcuts, right? In the industry, it is so tough, right? But that's very challenging, highly paid, but that's how it is. And you will be so much pressurized by deadlines, right? And you will have to take your team, right? You have to do it with your team. So that's why you should learn teamwork right from now onwards. In school, always try to be engaged in a teamwork, because that's where you learn how to control your peers, how to get the maximum out of them, right? Try to become a team lead also. Okay, I'm telling this by experience. Later it will be very useful for you. Right, that's why you should join a club or a society and try to organize something, try to take responsibility. That's going to be very helpful one day when you come to the industry. Okay, and you should be able to be patient, keep calm and quiet when you are pressurized by your heads or deadlines, lack of resources, all these things. Right, so think about it. It's very important, right? Okay. Right, another major issue is code vulnerabilities, right? Just a minute, I need to send a message to the other group. 10 grade 10, I'm going to start another class for them. Right, another major issue is that some methods used in programming might lead to code vulnerabilities. What are code vulnerabilities? The program code that you have used creates some loopholes, right? That can be due to not knowing the new technologies, right? Lack of knowledge you have. That's why you have to be very competent, right, in your knowledge. Another major issue is code vulnerability. Program code that has been written in such a way that it creates a security issue that may be taken advantage to gain access to the computer system. Okay, because these hackers, they always in the alert. They're always checking the codes and they're testing it, right? Because they don't have any other job. Their job is to find these vulnerabilities, right? A code vulnerability is when code does the task intended but has been written in such a way it creates a potential security issue. More details about code vulnerability. So you have to look into code vulnerability. How can you avoid that? You have to go through the codes, review the codes, right? As a programmer, you will have to review the code, right? You yourself should check whether you have written the code properly. Another method is you can show your code to a senior programmer and ask like, hey, check my code for me, right? Because they have more experience, so they will quickly spot errors in your code, right? Okay, so this is what you have to do. Review by another programmer, show it to someone else, right? The reviewer will look at the code produced. They will check to see if bad programming practices have been used. You might be able to, you might get blasted by that fellow, right? But I think it's better to get scolded before something serious happens. And by getting scolded, you will learn something, right? This is fairly labor intensive and therefore expensive, because that programmer's time is also important, right? He will have to look into your problem, and that will waste time and can be expensive to the organization as well. But still, it will save a lot of money and in long term. An automated review, like for example, when you write an HTML code or a CSS code in W3C World Wide Web Consortium, there is an automated review system. You can upload your web page there, and it will list down all the incorrect codes, and also it will show the warnings, and they will say like, okay, you have used this, but it works. It would have been better if you use this particular technique. So automated reviews are there. Specialist piece of software is able to examine. So they use AI. The software will highlight potential issues, vulnerabilities, bad programming practices, and it will also give you suggestions, warnings. Software can't find, but problem is you can't find every issue. Even if you show it to another programmer, he won't be able to spot all the issues, right? So you can see that how difficult this task is, right? Sometimes a combination of both types will be used. Then there are testing methods, right? In system development, system development lifecycle, testing is very important. Okay, and testing starts at the time of development, right? You can't wait until you finish everything to test. Modular testing comes in there. Why? Because you divide your whole program into modules. That's called modularization. And now you develop module by module, and you test these modules independent, right? If small problems remain, they might be used by hackers to gain access. For example, failing to validate the input correctly. So there is a module which focuses on the user input, and now that is not recognizing a wrong input. So now you know the problem is with that particular module. So before combining all the modules, you have to test that and rectify it, right? They could gain access to the whole system, which could allow valuable data to be obtained. So modular testing is very important, right? What is modular testing? Break down your whole problem into small problems. You start solving individual problems separately. And how do you do that? By creating modules for each sub-problem. These modules can be tested separately, and it allows us to identify specific errors in those modules, right? So that is vital before you combine all the modules and test the whole system. After combining also, you have to test, okay? After combining the whole set of modules also, you have to test, integrate test, and then you have to send it to the user and get it tested, user testing. So there are a lot of testing stages. Then you can do an audit trail. What is an audit trail? Trail is an activity, record of activities, right? Record of activities that have taken place on the computer system. This record is generated automatically and will record what has happened and who has done any changes. So this is like a log. This is like an activity log. It is also called activity log. I'll take 10 minutes more. Okay, activity log. You have heard this, right? Activity log. This is maintained by whom? Administrator. So he's able to see who accessed the system, who logged into the software, what they did, right? what did they attempt to do? What are the devices connected right now? Likewise. Okay, now recently we had a problem. One of the Wi-Fi connections that we use in the school was showing some unusual number of users. So we were kind of monitoring it daily. Sometimes it was increasing, sometimes it was decreasing. So we had to take an action against that, because it was unusual, right? Other accounts okay to have a large number, but this was becoming widely used. So we had to take a decision, and we changed the credentials, and the number of users went down drastically, right? So that kind of thing, that's part of audit trail. Okay, understand? Any questions? Any questions? No? Okay, let's finish this quickly. Okay, right. So audit trail will track the changes done to the system in a chronological order. So you are able to see when that happened, right? On what day it happened, right? And if you have a user account system, you will be able to see who did it, right? Ordinary users are not able to read the audit trail. Only the admin can do that, right? So it's maintained by the admin. We can see who changed, what happened, everything, right? And if there was cyber attack, they can also check who entered the system. If the attack was successful, what sections of the system were accessed. And this is why most of the time these cyber the hackers, they get caught, right? They may be successful earlier, but later on they get caught. Why? The moment you notice that there's something going on, you start tracking them using audit trails. So ultimately, they get caught. Use secure operating systems. Some are designed with security in mind, less likely to be much harder to attack successfully, right? When implementing a computer system that will contain sensitive or confidential data, the choice of the operating system is very important. Not only the operating system, even the language, programming language that you're going to use to develop your software is also important. The version, right? Provide effective network security. Keeping a network secure requires effective management. Right now, you might wonder why our system administrator is always inside that room, right? You might think that he's jobless. No, what he's doing is this. He's doing management of the network. He's monitoring, right? And he trains his users as well, right? And he looks after all the schools from that particular place, right? And he must make sure that his staff is well educated. They're technically savvy, right? They are sent for workshops, right? With up-to-date training. So recently there was some training from our ISP, right? They asked all the organizations that use their technology, right? And they had a training. Are needed to keep the software patched correctly. Implement policies. What are policies? Policies are the guidelines, rules, and regulations, right? Something like okay, you must not try to access these computers, right? You should not plug pen drives to all the computers. There is a reserved computer for that. Likewise, the company may or the organization will disclose some policies for the users. And if you don't abide by the policies, you will be maybe sacked even, right? Reduce the chance of attack being successful. Train users in best practices in terms of security, right? Make sure you enable two-factor authentication. The organization will tell you, right? Recently, they told, right? Enable two-factor authentication. Don't leave your accounts open. Don't save your password. So those are also part of the policy. And monitor the system to ensure that there's no unauthorized access. But to tell you, recently there were some attacks on some accounts. There were a few complaints, so we had to communicate it to Colombo. Right? Will you be able to finish this? Yeah. Just be patient. Okay. We'll finish this. Right. Now, to identify vulnerabilities, one method is using an ethical hacker. So this is an area for you to think of in the future, and it's a branch of computer science which relates to cyber security. Okay, prevent cyber attacks. So ethical hacking is basically you talk to a company, you can find out their problems first, right? Or you can do it in both ways. You can talk to the company and tell them, look, I'm going to hack your system, but don't worry, I won't do any disruption. I will report all the vulnerabilities. Or else you do it secretly and report the vulnerabilities, right? Either way is fine, but you have to talk to them in a proper manner. Otherwise, you will end up in jail, right? By trying to tell them that you hacked their system. It is looking for weaknesses in a software and systems so that they can be improved, because you are helping them out, right? You are helping them out to protect their system, right? The other day, Shahada, you remember, right? Shahada and Harun, you remember in the IT day, that cybersecurity guy, right? He hacked the Pick Me app, right? He hacked the Pick Me app, and he informed them, and they were so happy, right? If you look at his site, they have commended his work. So must have got a good prize money also, right? And he said that he's now working for a mobile provider, right? One of the mobile providers. While hacking is seen as bad if someone is trying to gain access to a system to steal. Yeah, so hacking is anyway bad, but ethical hacking is a proper way of using your hacking knowledge. There are many ways that vulnerabilities can be identified, and some of these are explained below, right? So hackers, ethical hackers, bad hackers, ethical hackers, they all use penetration testing. Penetration means trying to enter, right? Now you must have used penetration testing when you played cricket in your house, and when the ball goes to the other house, you must have tried the penetration testing, right? To go through their maybe wall or fence. Penetration testing, right? Is often shortened for pen testing, and IT systems of an organization are deliberately attacked to find any weaknesses. So that's where the ethical hackers are used to break into their own system. These attacks are authorized by the organization, so they are in a contract. Right? You can't go out and say like, okay, I'm working for this company, and that's that guy was ethical, right? Because he said, right now I'm working for a mobile provider, right, whose name I can't disclose, and he didn't tell. Right, but he tried to hide the Pick Me also, but when we checked the website, that was there, right? But he didn't disclose what the company he's working right now, what the company he's working for right now. The attackers may be run by employees of the organization or by business that has been contracted to run the test, right? And he told one important thing, that we also can be testing for these multinational companies. They have opened their systems for public to come and test and then report vulnerabilities, and then you get paid. So right now you can try some of those opportunities. Just do some Google search and see. Companies around the world might be looking for people like you who have some experience in computer science to test their system and report vulnerabilities, and in return you get paid. So there you don't really need to be an ethical hacker, right? Sometimes you are a tester. You're just a tester. You are reporting bugs. Okay. So try those, right? The pen tester is likely to try to gain access to all the systems. So pen tester is not a normal tester. Okay. No, he's not a normal quality tester. He's trying to penetrate. Has an attacks will often include looking for technical weaknesses. So for this, you need somewhat cybersecurity knowledge, some skills. Definitely a skill in programming language like Python, but then some experience in cybersecurity. So this is why, if you are interested in this field, you must follow some online courses during your free time, like maybe during the vacation, right? In places like Udemy or even YouTube videos, right? And trying social engineering methods. Once the pen testing has been completed, the report is usually presented to a senior manager within the organization and explaining what the issues were and how they are going to impact. Sometimes they might ask you to rectify them. Then you get paid more. Sometimes they will ask their own developers to correct them, right? So this is where Chandula excelled in, and now he's working for a reputed company right now after the big three, and I think after MSc also, right? Okay, then you can use tools for this, right? Either you can try on your own with your knowledge, with your skills, or you can use some built-in tools, right? Commercially available tools. It is possible to use software tools to scan a system for vulnerabilities. These commercial analysis tools, vulnerability scanners, right, can either be purchased or hired, right? Sometimes if you work for a company to test their system, they will offer you the tools, paid tools, right? Paid versions. These tools can only identify already known vulnerabilities. Must keep up to date with to be effective. They can be used to scan the network from within internally or even from externally, because the attacks can come from internally or externally. Both of these scans can be valuable. An internal scan can show up issues that could be exploited by rogue employees. Who are rogue employees? Those are the employees who are trying to do something bad for the company, being inside the organization, right? Or they can be hired by outside, or a hacker who managed to physically get into the building or gain access to the network. An external scan might show vulnerabilities that a hacker could exploit from outside the company. So something like this, like, okay, you work for this company, you try to find them vulnerabilities. You go to their premises and you test it. When you come home, you try to hack your own organization. So there you are being an outside threat, external hacking, right? One negative aspect is that these tools are available, so the hackers will also be using this. They also can purchase these. So then there's a problem, right? So some of the security tools are only available for trusted organizations, right? Paid versions. They are not commercially available or freely available. So you will have to purchase some of these most secure softwares, which are highly secure, right? Not commonly available. Okay, any questions? Okay, finally, it's important to have a policy for your organization, right? Review of network and user policy. In most of the organizations, they face these attacks and they fall into these problems because they don't have a policy, right? Now, for example, if you take the school, if you don't tell the students, okay, you can't use the lab during the interval, you have to scan your pen drives. If you don't give them some rules and regulations, it will be difficult to control, right? And we'll have to face unwanted consequences, right? So it's very important that an organization has the user policies, right, which tells all the employees who is authorized to carry out various attacks, how and when patches to software should be applied, access controls, right? What are the access controls, like what are the permissions given for users? Okay, you are a student, well, you are not allowed to install uninstall software. You don't have access to that. Teachers don't have access to install uninstall software. Only the admins have. Likewise, the policy document should explain everything. Password requirements. Okay, if you're using a password, make sure that it's strong. Use complex words, strong passwords. If you want to change the password, inform the administrator, right? Report to him using a proper method, maybe an email, right? How security is set up and maintained on the network. What data audit trails should be used. How long they should be kept for. Anything else relevant to the security and maintenance. They should also mention what will happen to the employees if they breach this policy. That is also important, right? If you violate these rules and regulations, there'll be stern action, right? There'll be inquiries, and after that we'll blacklist you and we'll kick you out of the organization, and you won't be able to join any other organization, right? That's how you have to control these employees, right? And then other things will be much more easy. Okay, any question? This user policy is likely to contain details of what use of the network is allowed or not allowed. What will happen to the user if they see what I told you? If there is something unacceptable happen. How to report false? Right now, you see in the lab, since we don't have a proper policy, students try to fix the problem, right? They remove this and that and plug to other computers, and right. Now, if we have told them, like, okay, you are not allowed to touch the hardware, you are not allowed to change the hardware, you should report to your teacher, and teacher should report to the admin. So if there's a system like that, it will be easy to manage. Security information are good practices when choosing, and yeah, okay. So that's how important a user policy to an organization is. So no matter how strong your hardware security is, no matter how strong your software security is, user policies extremely important, and user policies should be updated regularly. As and when you find threats, when you find vulnerabilities, you should go and change the user policy also, right? And every employee must be given a copy of the user policy, and it should be displayed in a common area, like maybe an intranet, maybe in the labs, so that you can keep them reminded. Okay, so we come to the end of the chapter. Okay, so I'll give this for homework, these checkpoint questions. In the next class, we are going to do internet and World Wide Web. Okay, so I'm trying to finish the syllabus through online classes, because then we can spend some time, physical time, on doing papers, because we have literally only 1 week. So we had to finish internet and World Wide Web, and we had to look at this bigger picture also. We are really desperate, right? See here, this week gone, this week also gone, and we have only this week, 7 to 11. I think 17th the exam is starting, so we'll see. Okay, so please make sure that you attend the class. If you miss the class, watch the video and revise and do the questions. You didn't send me the answers for the previous questions that I gave you. If you send me, I will definitely correct and send it back to you. Okay then, see you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.